If you're serious about becoming a professional musician, here are some tips and tricks from me that are going to help you succeed. Guys, what's going on? Today we're talking about being a professional musician, and what I mean by that is getting paid for work, making a living in music, and possibly building your own brand or business in regards to your profession. Now, this isn't going to be some kind of listicle. This is going to be just advice that I'm thinking about actively as a professional musician in the industry, and also trying to give you guys advice to set your expectations correctly when you decide to branch off and do your thing. So the biggest challenge I see for a lot of young musicians wanting to become professional is that there's quite a big step from becoming an amateur into a professional space. Especially, I mean, you might get a paid gig now and then, but as far as gigs that are going to pay you full time, or maybe you take a step back and you can put aside your old mall job or pizza job to do this as a living, it's a big step. And honestly, it's actually more gradual than you think, but it takes a long time for that to happen. Usually the first key is to move to some kind of town where music is pretty prominent. Obviously, demand for work has to be high in your area in order for you to make a living at something. Now, some of the main cities in the music sphere, like maybe Chicago or Nashville or LA, or maybe even DC, maybe some of these cities have a ton of musicians already, and so the demand meets the supply. And I think for a lot of people, coming to some of these bigger cities like LA or Nashville, there's just so much talent in this town. And so being able to stick out and maybe make waves in the industry in your area maybe isn't a small feat. I've heard a lot of people say, especially to me when I was starting out, like maybe start out in your town where you're at, develop your skills, develop your talents, really become established in a town that you're in. I've got a lot of friends who are from Arizona, part of the gospel scene there, and they are incredible players. And they came to Nashville looking for work, and it's been a minute. It's hard for them to find work. Sometimes it's easier to become a bigger fish in a small pond and to make music that way while working on your side hustles in the interim. But coming to a big city like Nashville, you have to be somewhat established already, and even if you're not, it's going to be a long road. Usually Nashville, it's about a 10-year run. Obviously, that's going to change from place to place with more people, and it depends on your instruments too. For example, in Nashville, where I'm at, there's a lot of guitar players. You could fire a gun down the street and hit 20 guitar players more talented than you. And so having skills in other areas are really going to help supplement your skill sets and make you more attainable for some of these bigger gigs. Like, for an example, part of being a Nashville player is not just being able to play guitar or play keyboard or play whatever, but to play auxiliary instruments, like maybe banjo or mandolin, or maybe you run tracks on a tracks rig. Maybe you're an MD shouting out changes to your fellow bandmates in the middle of a gig. You know, there are these particular skills that got to coincide with your music skills that have to be looked at seriously if you're going to make a living in this town. I will say that those of us who maybe play guitar only, or we play a little bit of bass, you know, we're playing one instrument, or we have one major skill set that we're trying to market to people. People who get those gigs full time are like the top, 5% of players in this town. They're already established. They already have their foot in the game. They've been here longer than you. So the best bet for you all coming to a major town, trying to make it in this area, is to build a wide variety of different skill sets. Now, skill sets can vary widely. I have a lot of experiences in social media marketing and in video production. I do a lot of audio production as well on the side, whereas other players are really great at background vocals. Like I said, they MD or run tracks. Maybe they play different instruments, or maybe they're a graphics designer. All of these things kind of fit hand in glove and are going to make you more marketable when you're pitching yourself to particular gigs, or maybe when you're talking to a manager and they're like, what can you do? And you can say, I sing background vocals, I can play bass, and I can run tracks. All of a sudden, that's going to be way better than just finding a random schmo who can play guitar really well, and that's all you can do. You're going to win that out in the end, I think, depending on if you're a good hang or not. And that is the next part about finding consistent work in this town. It's really about being a great hang. I think talent gets you in the door in most circumstances, but in the end, it's all about the hang. Can you be on the road with the team for a really long time and they won't get annoyed with you? Are you keeping your mouth shut on opinions that maybe you don't have any, leeway to talk about? And also, like, just kind of staying in your lane, right? You're not overstepping. You're being cool and chill and fun to hang around. And overall, you got your blinders on. You have a mission to hang with the band. And then when it comes to playtime, you're professional. You're there on time. You're prepared. You're ready to go. And the rest of it's just a lot of cake and having fun with some really good friends. Now, as far as finding work in town, I think that can be captured in a lot of different ways. I would say the best way to find work in this town is just to connect in your community, to go and meet people, go and play at different gigs. Try to get as much exposure to different people as you can. I think in Nashville especially, we call it the little big town. Like, it's a little town as far as circles are concerned for musicians, but it's big in that there's just so much happening overall. But the circles where that happens are pretty small. Kind of like the Pareto principle, like 80% of the work is done by 20% of the people. It's kind of like that idea, right? So in regards to a new person coming into a music town, to become successful and to make money in this industry, it's important to really connect with not just people that are better than you to get your name in the hat, so to speak, but also to look for those people that are at the same tier or maybe lower than you as far as establishment in the community. Because honestly, Nashville goes through these 10 to 15 year cycles where if people are consistent in their work ethic and they work really hard, eventually you see them kind of rise to the top, right? And so having your footprint in maybe an artist or a band or a group of people that are all pretty low on the totem pole, you're all going to rise together, and eventually that's going to become more paid work for you down the line. So it's important that you're building relationships, you're not burning bridges, but also you're kind of using the shotgun effect. You're kind of firing out like all of your skills and talents to a lot of different people. You're taking a bunch of gigs, you're working the networking aspect of things, and eventually something's going to land and stick. And those things may not last forever, and that's fine, but just know that in regards to your profession, you are seeking to establish yourself in this industry, make time for yourself to pursue what you want to pursue, but also don't be afraid to branch out of your comfort zone, because you'll find that anyone who comes to Nashville looking to do something specific is going to end up doing something way different than what they expected. And being able to flex in and out of that is really important, but also keeping your main passions in mind. So I know this doesn't need to be said, but I want to say it anyway. Continue to pursue your skills and to build those skills into something really cool and marketable. Obviously, I think every side man, kind of like me, who's doing contractual work and making a living at it or trying to, you're going to hit dry spells. You're going to hit moments where like the gigs aren't going to come in, and you're going to lose gigs too. It's important that you have a backup of, I have a personal business and name I'm trying to promote, which is, it can be really profitable for you in the future, right? So as an example, like my YouTube channel is something that I'm really invested in to making work and to make money at, but also I've got other skills that I'm using in the actual side man scheme of things. Like I'm doing podcasts, I'm doing editing, I'm doing interviews, things that are going to help pull some cash into my bank account while I'm pursuing the guitar thing. And obviously, the incremental steps it takes to get from, no name to something, it's actually not as big as you think. It's pretty gradual, and you meet the right people, and as you network with people and build those contacts, you're going to make it eventually. Just you have to have a humble spirit, a humble heart, and to really pursue and build your skill sets. For me, one of the greatest things I ever did was I started getting guitar lessons again. I think everyone who has an instrument should have some kind of a mentorship or some kind of teacher that is teaching them new things. And I've been taking guitar lessons since the pandemic. That was the one thing that when I lost all my work in pandemic season, I really wanted to be like, I'm going to come out of this pandemic a better guitar player and a better performer, and I got lessons. And those lessons have been instrumental in affecting my ability to play, as well as encouraging me in my own guitar path, because my teacher's been very kind to me about my skill sets and where my weaknesses are, and also showing me the ropes as, here's where you have to go, here's how you navigate certain situations in the industry, and here's how I can use my success to help influence you and how you can attain success in the industry as well. Guys, that was all a cursory glance on how to achieve some measure of success in any creative musical endeavor. I think that can be applied to many different professions. If you were, a filmmaker, or you were an artist or a graphics designer, using a lot of these similar tactics can really help you catapult your way into a bigger fame, more paychecks coming your way. It's important to think about those things as you develop your skills and pursue your passions. And so if you like this video and you want to hear more talks about how to succeed in a music-based gig economy, let me know down below in the comments. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about how to achieve success in the industry. Although I'm not as successful as I want to be, we're all just kind of moving up at a steady pace, Excelsior, ever higher, as Stanley would say. We're trying to become better versions of ourselves, and I'm here to help you guys do that as well. So if you like this video, please consider subscribing. I make videos all the time, and we'll see you next time on IkeGuitar.